Kofi, thank you for coming on the pod, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
No problem. We've been planning this for maybe a year or two
Yeah, it's
at the
been a while.
moment because
It's been a while.
pandemic didn't help, but you're also like an international man of mystery, playing basketball in different cities and stuff. So, but here we
Yeah.
go. Good way to kick the pod back off after a long hiatus as well. So for a bit of background, I'll probably have given some details in the intro, but I know Kofi through my time at Slater Menswear when we pulled him in as a model. And not little did I know, but behind the scenes, behind all the modelling, Kofi has had a pretty full journey for how old are you now?
31.
31, and you've lived pretty full life so far, but you're still starting new things and all that. So if we can just go back to, I'd say let's start about the school period, like just where life was kind of kicking off, where you're going into the world of interacting with other people, any sort of life altering, life changing stories, and kind of who built you into who you are.
Yeah. So, single parent family, me and my mum, from the inner city of Birmingham, and only child as well. So, people that know me, like when they find that out, they're like, "Oh, I get it." But then sometimes, like, I don't act like an only child. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, just normal upbringing. Quite close with my family. It was me and my cousin, because obviously my auntie was really close with my mum. So, like, me and him were both only children. So, like, them two were really close. So, me and my cousin, probably like, we were like a year apart, year and like 18 months apart.
Nice.
So, we spent a lot of time together anyway. So, it was kind of like, I was an only child in my house, but I had a brother.
Yeah.
At the same time, even though it was my cousin, do you know what I mean? It's always like Kofi and Theo, always together. Went to same schools, did all the same sports, go on holiday together. So it was all of that.
Oh, that's really cool. So still almost like a family unit there.
Yeah. The only difference was like there wasn't really any like male influence really, other than like my uncles. But I was good with it because like where I'm from, most people are raised by their moms anyway, and they've either got siblings, but usually no dad in the house anyway. So for me, it was normal. Do you know what I mean? It's like it was fine.
So were you aware that you didn't really have a adult male influence in your life at that time, or is it something you kind of clocked on to recently? In your, well, not recently, but in your adult years.
Like I knew I had a dad, and like we communicated a little bit, probably like once or twice a year. But like, this is my family over here. Like he's like I know I've got a dad. I came from two parents, but other than that, he's just a guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got like my uncles, like my granddad, stuff like that, and like all my friends, they had like older brothers and stuff like that. So, and in the inner city, like when you're out just playing out and stuff, you've got friends that are like between, like when you're like 12, you got friends that are like 15, 25, 40. Do you know what I
Okay,
mean?
right, yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're all like outside, like playing. You'll see guys at like newsagents and they'll just talk to you, to like bring you under their wing. And obviously at that time I had a basketball, so I was known as like the basketball kid. And like the elders would be like, "Yo, I don't want to see you getting in trouble. Where's your basketball?" Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you doing? Stuff like that. So I just had just a whole bunch of like male influences. And I was quite blessed that a lot of them were like quite positive as well. So yeah. And in school life,
Well, was
was
little Kofi getting into trouble? Did basketball kind of keep you busy out of it?
it's funny because like I wouldn't say I got in trouble, but I had a temper problem. But I was in gifted and talented for every single subject, like all of them. So like I would do my work, do the extra work, then the extra work, and then you can't tell a 10, 11-year-old to, even when I was like 8, 9, you can't tell me to like sit down and be quiet, don't talk to any of my friends. I've got nothing to do. Like no child's doing that. No one want to
yeah.
play. Do you know what I mean? Or give me something to do. I haven't got no more work for you. All right, then cool. I'm going to talk to my friends. Do you know what I mean? So then when the teacher would be telling me off, I would run my mouth. So then I'm getting in trouble for being cheeky,
Right.
for speaking back. But then every parents' evening, whenever my mum's getting phone calls, you got to come get Kofi, he's suspended, blah, blah, blah. He's done all his work though. All his work. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So my mum's kind of like, well, can't you, like I'm at work, can't you give him some more to do? So then it got to a point where as soon as I finished all the extra work, I'd leave and go down to the mentoring lab and just hang out with like my mentor, or when I was getting kicked out of class all the time, they just give me all the extra work, and I'll just go down there and do it with him.
Who was your mentor?
Mr. Thompson.
Ah,
He's the
right.
OG. Him. I think I spoke. More people know about him than he is aware, because he hit me up like last year, and we hadn't spoken for like decade. I don't know how he got my number, and we got talking, and I was like, everyone knows about you, like way more people than you think, because I keep it 100. Like, he's one of the biggest like factors that changed my life.
So what was he? Was he like a PE teacher, or
Nah, mentor.
was he in the school though?
Yeah, it was in my primary school. It was
Right.
nuts because like he just popped up one day at 6'5", and obviously we're all like 10, 11, and I didn't have a growth spurt till I was like 14. I was tiny, and I just like, he would just like walk like a giant, just slow, took his time, and he was a black male, and at that point as well, I've never really liked males, like older males. Like, I've always had a thing against them.
Why do you think that is?
Just like dad stuff, more than
Yeah,
likely.
okay.
But like, it wasn't really I had anything against them. It's just, don't try to tell me what to do. You know what I mean? Like, you're not my dad. He doesn't even. So like, who are you to try that? Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
kind of that. Like,
What do you know? Kind
yeah, yeah. Like, my back was always up. A woman though, I'm listening. I'm good because I'm raised by women. My mom, my aunties, my nan. And yeah, Mr. Thompson just popped up, and he just had such a cool, calm demeanor. He was funny, and he was one of the first people that put a basketball in my hand as well. But like, he talked to me in the hallway. He'd see me around. He'd like give me thought-provoking questions and stuff about, why did you say that to a teacher? Like, for a lot of the time in the city, when like little black kids get in trouble, especially black boys, immediately they've done something wrong, and then they're addressed like they've done something wrong immediately. It's not even a what's happened, because half the time we just want people to know there is another side. Do you know what I mean? And he just hit me with like, what's happened. I was like, oh, that's different. Like, I like this. Half the time it probably was my fault, because I shouldn't have been speaking back to teachers, but the fact he asked me, like, he kind of like weaseled his way in with me that way.
Well, so it's a case of you were acting out, you'd all this extra energy that wasn't getting any added work for it to focus on. So when you acted out, he actually got you thinking about, why are you doing this? He maybe got you more reflective than you'd ever been in your life prior to that point, because you'd just been acting, right? You'd never thought, why am I acting in such a way? And was that where his line of questioning was taking you?
Yeah, I think because my mum did a really good job of keeping me active. So anything I wanted to do, like, she did it. Like, I used to swim for my region. Like, most people don't know. I was like brown belt in Kung Fu. Most people don't know. I played the drums for like my mum's church, at school as well, like in the main services. What else did I do? I did everything under the sun pretty much, but I would only do it for like 2 years at a time. I'd be intrigued by it, interested, obsessed, get really good, and then be like, all right, cool, I'm done, and then just sack it off after 2 years. And then with him coming in, he kind of threw a spanner in the works just by giving me a basketball. But I don't think it was. He probably could have gave me anything. He probably could have gave me a rugby ball, and I probably would have been somewhat intrigued, because it was more so him than the sport, because I didn't know anything about the sport at the time. So the way he used to address me, like, there was this thing called Stay Cool Club, and it was like, I wouldn't say it was detention. I don't even know how to describe like Stay Cool Club, but for all the kids that had like bad attitudes and like bad tempers that had potential.
Okay.
So
like
I'd,
after school club kind of thing, I get you.
yeah, so like I'd go there, and I'd be with all the other super smart kids who are like really academic, but like will tell the teacher to shut their mouth, or like throw a chair in class. Do you know what I mean? That kind of
Okay, yeah.
that kind of kid. And he'd come in there, and he'd just like sit with me and just talk to me, rather than telling me off. He taught me, because remember, in the school system, you've got teachers and you've got the students. Mentors are the bridge between the two. So unless you're like, if you've got your favorite teacher, you're probably not going to run your mouth to that teacher because you like them. But how many teachers are you not going to like be on best terms with? There's probably going to be a few, do you know what I mean? Because teachers are human too. But he was the bridge. Mentors are the bridge of being able to communicate the stresses of the teacher and the stresses of the student, the stresses of the parent, and then kind of bring that all together.
Well, I suppose it's a thing that adults feel they need to put on these airs, right? It's like, I know better than you. You're a kid. What do you know? I tell you what to do. So it's like almost a manager-employee relationship, but obviously a bit more like adult-child. But he kind of broke down the barriers for you and was like, listen, we're all human.
Yeah.
This is why the teachers are doing these things. This is why this is happening. And he broke it down for you from an early age.
Yeah, and another thing, especially when you're in the inner city, a lot of the teachers don't look like us. So, like, now I'm older, I realize how young some of the teachers actually were. Like, some of them were fresh from university. Do you know what I mean? Probably like 24.
Right, okay.
Now, if you're from a middle class background and go to like Stoke University and now you're in an inner city primary school in the hood, you probably don't understand where I'm coming from. So you need to understand where I'm coming from in my life outside of this place before you talking to me a certain kind of way in here. Because unfortunately, some of these like 10-year-old, 11-year-olds have probably got more real life experience than some of these like these teachers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like some of the teachers were quite understanding of that. And like, you could tell by certain situations, like how they would handle it. And I think as a student, like if we have like gang members, like we're like 10, gang members are coming up to the school ready to do problems. And we look at the teachers who are supposed to be there to like be of authority and they don't want to come outside, even to the gate. You guys want to stay inside. You're scared. You're looking at the teacher kind of like, I don't know how much authority you can really have because I live on the other side of that gate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I live in this, so them people that come up to the school, I'm probably going to see them at the shop, see them at the park, and you're going to be nowhere around. But you want to try and tell me off in class. You need to get a grip. That's how we kind of felt at that time. So Mr. Thompson, he was from our community. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you just feel like he got it. And then the way he went about it was just like warming, because it weren't just me that took to him. It was quite a lot of like my friends as well. You were like, yeah, he's solid, him.
It's funny, that's a really interesting problem that I'm lucky to have never really had to think about before, but I don't know how the employment of teachers takes place, but you would think it would make sense for people who lived in that world, grew up in that world and understood that world to teach in those schools, not even in an exclusivity kind of factor, just they get it. And like you said, Mr. Thompson, he got it, and that made such an impact on you that I'm surprised more schools aren't thinking about.
It's definitely improved, I think. And also, like,
you mean the understanding or the
understanding? Like, I've got a lot of friends who are teachers, and I think it's an amazing thing because, like, the system they can want teachers all they like, but people have got to want to be teachers as well. Do you know what I mean? If that means you've got to make it more appealing, then that's one thing, but also, like, people have got to want to do it. People have got to want to give back. People have got to want to be a part of that change. And I think it's fantastic, man. Like, it's now that I'm older, I'm on the opposite side. I just think it's amazing just like how pivotal it is, because really the schools raise these young people a lot more than the parents do.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about the amount of time you're at school with your teachers and your friends more than you're with your family. So, like, that compound interest of time and experience it's a lot.
Yeah, like a really defining part for people's lives and who they become. That's a conversation for another time, Kofi. I definitely want to dive into just get more information about that from you. But let's go into how Mr. Thompson impacted you onto basketball, because it's interesting you said you tried all these different things. You've got the limbs for like drums and all those kung fu's. I'd never get that. But how you took up basketball and you've been doing that for what, coming up to 15?
No, like 20 years now.
20 years now.
Yeah.
Whereas that's 10 times more than any of the other things you've done. Was it really Mr. Thompson's impact or a love of the sport, maybe a combination of both?
I think it's a combination, you know, because when I first got introduced to basketball, I wasn't interested.
Were you still short at the time, or did the growth spurt?
Now, like, I was tiny still,
Yeah.
but like my friend Reese, most people don't know this. Like, I wrote about this in my book. I wasn't gonna put it in. I wasn't for years. I've been telling people that Mr. Thompson was the first introduction to basketball. He wasn't. He was kind of like when I actually started going down my basketball journey. He was, but my first introduction to basketball was my friend Reese. So where I lived when I stayed with my nan, Reese went to another school, and then like on the estate after school, because you know, like back in the day, like now, but as soon as you finish school, school clothes off, play out clothes, have a drink, get £1, £2 in your pocket, we're out till the street lights turn on. Do you know what I mean? From 3:30, we're gone. You're not seeing us. These kids don't play out like that anymore. Reese, his grandma and family lived at one of the houses, so we would just like see each other. Me and my cousin, we'd just be out playing. He'd be out with his friends playing and stuff, and we just all became friends because me and my cousin, we lived on the opposite side of town, but like the opposite gang area of like where we was, but the primary school we went to was here. And obviously at that time, you're not really involved. You just want to have fun. And then, yeah, we all just started playing. And then Reese, he got a basketball one day, and we used to just go park. We used to do convoys, like everyone jump on their bike. We just end up wherever in Birmingham with no phone, and we figure out our way back. Do you know what I mean? You just stop at the newsagents, get our ice slow, hang out with your friends, wherever you are, and you just make your way home. He had a basketball, went to the park one day, and he was shooting around, just throwing it. And he threw it to me, and I was like, I'm not interested. I threw it back to him, because at that time, I'm doing martial arts, I'm doing swimming, I'm doing everything else. And I was just like, I'm good. Threw it back to him, I'm not interested. He loved basketball, though.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he quite enjoyed it. He used to have a ball all the time. And then time went by, and then Reese, he used to suffer from seizures. I'd never knew what a seizure was, but like after a while, we'd always be playing out, and then Reese would just fall on the floor and start shaking, foaming at the mouth, and we're like 9, and obviously we used to play out, so we're nowhere near our house. We used to like be in a park opposite side of town or whatever, asking strangers, yo, like, do you know what's wrong with him? Can you help us? They're like, oh, I was having a seizure. They're calling an ambulance. Then we're having to go from the ambulance to his mom's house, which is just like traumatizing. But then he'd always be all right.
Well, I assume after the first time it happened, he was diagnosed, and you were all
Yeah,
made aware
yeah.
of what was going on.
But then we're still young, like 9, 10.
Yeah.
So then we just keep playing out. As the time's gone on, the months, he started getting more and more seizures. There was a time we stole a police dog. We didn't steal a police dog, but the canine just followed us, and we just used to play with it in the park. Big Alsatian, German Shepherd, like, okay. And he had a seizure, and we were just like, they're becoming more and more frequent now. And there'd be times we'd ask his mom, like, is Reese playing out? Oh, I can't today, he's not well. We're like, okay, we don't really understand. Then there was one time I was saying at my nan's, I was gonna knock for him, and his mom and sister went to the shop. He was in a bathroom at home by himself, locked door, had a seizure, hit his head, died.
Jesus.
Family came back, everything. And yeah, I just didn't know what to do. I was just like, what? My mum didn't really know how to talk to me about it because I was so young. I'm like 10. And then I remember we went to his funeral. First time I think I wore a suit outside of like church service. And I remember my mum was like, do you want to go up and see him? And Reese was a little bit older than me, like, but a lot bigger because I was like tiny. And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, you might want to see your friend one last time. I was like, okay. So she brought me down there. I went down there, and he had a basketball pillow in his casket. And I was just looking at him, and he looked so cold. And his hair still looked, because he was like Jamaican Indian, his hair always looked wet and curly. And I used to be like, but his hair looked the exact same. And I was just looking at him, and I was just like, man. And then when he was being carried out, I remember seeing on the side, along like all the like flowers and stuff, he had like a basketball like in there. And I used to just look at it, and I just used to think, he loved ball. And then it just probably just went in my subconscious. And then when Mr. Thompson introduced basketball to me, I was like, I'm a bit bored of everything else that I do. Don't really know what I want to do next, if anything. Even school was boring because I was good at everything. And then Mr. Thompson, he played basketball anyway, had a history in it. I think I got kicked out of class for running my mouth to a teacher. I was fuming. We just got like 5 new basketball hoops put in the school as well, and the playground. And I hated playing football, but I used to just do it just because everyone else did it, and I was like athletic. He gave me a basketball and he was like, throw it. And I was about to boot it over the fence because I was screwing. And I was like, how? He was like, aim for the middle of the backboard. So I just underarmed it, hit the middle of the backboard, went in. I was like, huh. Because it just went, K. I was like, huh.
Yeah, nothing like starting off successful.
Yeah, and I was like, But then Mr. Thompson just got the ball out the rim, passed it back to me, said, do that again. So as I'm just focusing on the middle, I'm just doing the same thing over and over. But he's talking to me about what's happened in class, what's happened with the teacher. So I'm talking to him, but I'm not present in the anger. I'm kind of like third person of the anger. Do you know what I mean? Where I can just be like, yeah, I did say this to the teacher. I didn't try and hide any information to make it seem like it was just them. Do you know what I mean? And then from there, every playtime now, because some of my friends, they started like smoking in the corner of the playground, because we used to be sick of school dinners. So we used to have like a 20-foot high fence. We used to just hop that, go chip shop, go park, hop it again, come right back into school. Now we got the basketball hoops. My friends wanted to do that, but Mr. Thompson used to be on the playground and be like, instead of underarming it, this is how you put your fingers. This is how you hold the ball. And then, because I used to get kicked out of class, I used to go to the mentoring lab. I'd still whiz through all my work, but he's talking to me about basketball now. He's like, do you know who this is? What about this person? And at that time, I had cane rolls and I had a little bit of an attitude. And he showed me Allen Iverson, who he was tiny in the NBA, but he had his own vibe and persona. And like I fell in love with him, like his whole vibe. And I was like, huh. Because now that's another male role model, but he's one of the best players in the world now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Something to aspire to.
Every sport I've ever done, I've just played the sport because I liked it. Now I've got like something to aim for.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Something to look at every playtime. I'm skipping, sometimes playing outside, and I'm on the computer Googling stuff. I'm on Ask Jeeves. Do you know what I mean? Like back in the day, I'm on Ask Jeeves.
Yahoo and all
Yahoo.
that. So that makes sense. Rather than just doing the sport for the sake of burning off that energy and focusing, you actually had something to aspire to, a target, somewhere to get to.
For the first time.
Yeah, Kofi, I don't want to like hover on it too long if you don't want to, but and feel free to say you don't really want to get too into it, but just the Reese situation was obviously awful, because like for most kids, or a lot of kids, the first experience of death is a grandparent or a pet, which usually, reaches a certain age or whatever, and that's most people's understanding to it. Because, not to make this about me at all, but last year, the person who's been a friend in my life, died young, so in his 30s, and that's actually. So it took me to getting to 34 for my first friend of equal age to pass away. But that happened for you at 9, 10. Do you think that had a massive impact as a kid? Or as a kid, was it kind of like you didn't fully grasp what happened and you could move on to the next thing?
It's nuts because in the inner city, it's quite common for parents to bury their children. From shootings, stabbings, like I've had other friends who've died from shootings and stabbings.
Right.
I was just a little bit older. Do you know what I mean? I was like 15, 16. So like, but that wasn't my first experience. So my first experience, but like, what I couldn't fathom was just no one done it to him. It was just happened. And because I'd been with him for like 5 seizures, I always thought he was going to be all right. Do you know what I mean? But like, this was like the one where I'm just like, imagine he wasn't in the bathroom. Imagine he was like on his bed and had his seizure. He wouldn't have had a seizure, hit his head or something. Do you know what I mean? Like if there could have just been one little detail that was a little bit different, then maybe everything would have been different. So I'm just like, I don't know. But yeah, like I've experienced death like in multiple different ways, and like close to death experiences myself. You probably done your research and saw like almost tried to stab me to death for my car last year.
Oh, well, I remember when we spoke during that period because you shared it on your
Mad.
story.
So it's
Yeah.
almost happened to me. I've been in other situations where it hasn't been direct to me, but it's almost happened. Close friends where it's been unsuccessful and have died. Like just loads of stuff. But when I was 10, I think I just couldn't fathom it because I just didn't understand life. Like I just always thought to my mom, I want to see my friends. What do you mean he's gone? And then I got to see him one last time and it was like, okay. And then, yeah, it was just not. So I kind of feel like with the basketball, which I realized once, because my book started as a blog, then it turned into a book. And then obviously I kept unpacking. And I was like, if you're going to do it, you need to really do it because we're not going to be writing this again.
Well, it's like you said, because before you introduced the part about Reese, you said you weren't going to include it in your book, didn't
Yeah,
you?
no, I don't
Now
even
you've
think
decided to
I
open up
knew
more
about
on
it, like, consciously until I started thinking about it. And I was like, Mr. Thompson wasn't the first person that gave me a basketball. Reese was. And then I thought, Reese ain't around. Then I was like, how did he die? Then I was like, raw. And then I was like, I didn't even like basketball when Reese played it. Then I was like, my brain just went to the coffin. I was like, there was a basketball. So then as I've been writing a book, I'm like, with all my stresses of playing and feeling trapped in the game, it was kind of like I've been carrying my career and maybe his potential one at the same time. Do you know what I mean? And that's why sometimes like my career hasn't been the most fun, even though it's been very successful. Yeah, Reese has probably just been an undercover main part of it that I wasn't quite aware of.
like unknowingly you were carrying his legacy almost.
And like now I think about it, I'm like, bro, he'd be very proud because you guys are just playing a part. Do you know what I mean? He might have not even wanted to do all this, but like you've done a lot in basketball. Even if you was carrying the flag for him, do you know what I mean? You've done a lot more than most in two careers, you know, than like two people. So
Well, it's almost like very unselfish of you because even if it was subconscious, you were doing it for you and for him almost. And there must be some, I'm no psychiatrist or psychologist, but there must be some psychological force there that really drives you to just like push yourself because it was more than just, oh, this is just another thing I'm going to take up and do for 2 years. It's like, this is something I'm doing, and it almost keeps the memory of Reese alive.
yeah, for
in some way
sure.
for you.
For sure, because I got really good really fast, like I have with most things, but it's because I became obsessed. So within 2 years, I was actually pretty good. Like within like 3 months at school, I went from playground to one trial, killed that trial, went there for 2 weeks. I said, he needs to go to this club, went to that club. Then I was playing like under 12s, and then they put me with the under 13s and 14s, all within like 3-4 months. So I actually was like pretty good, but it just wasn't enough. Normally that's enough. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I just kept going. I don't think anything's ever been enough, but now that I'm at a stage where I can realize what I might have been doing it for, also, I can be a little bit more settled in my pursuit.
Oh, nice. I like that. So tell us a bit more about the journey with basketball, not just from I went from here to there, but just kind of what you went through. Because we touched on it when we were walking in the building and obviously want more details on it, but there was a journey across to America. So if we could just go through those steps.
Yeah. So I've been playing basketball now 20 years. Yeah, 20 years, 2 decades, you know, considering it was supposed to be 2 years. A lot longer than I thought.
Must have been nice to see you could commit to something for that long, though.
Yeah, like I used to be kind of wishy-washy, but 2 years is still a good amount of time. It's not like I was 2 weeks and then flopped it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once I used to like, hang out with Mr. Thompson and stuff, and I realized that America was a thing. Then I became obsessed, like Channel 5, putting in the video cassette tapes, recording games, staying up late at night, sneaking down to like watch games. My mum's asleep and stuff.
Was this part of the Allen Iverson thing that made you think America's where I need to go with? Okay.
Yeah. Because like in my head, I was like, I've got cane rolls. I'm black, young, I'm small. Everyone else I'm smaller than. When I look at Allen Iverson, he's black, cane rolls. He's really good. and he's one of the smallest players on the court. So in my head, I'm like, there's a correlation there. So I'm like, I don't see why I can't be like him.
Yeah.
And obviously, I really like art and stuff. So I used to draw on my arms, like tattoos and stuff. And then, yeah, from there, Mr. Thompson stayed like helping my mum find teams and everything like outside of school. He needs to go to this club. He came with me to my first session with my mum on like a Saturday, and I was like, rah, huh. And I killed it. I had the best time of my life because at that point, I only played basketball with him and one other kid at school. No school I've ever been to has ever had a team. So I had no one to play basketball with. And remember, I'm an only child. So I'd be in the park by myself, just me and my imagination. I'd be shooting in the rain, me and my imagination. On my bed, I used to carry my basketball everywhere. I was known as the basketball kid. I'd be on the main road, dribbling it in between people. I'd be in the supermarket with my nan, dribbling the ball. She used to get mad. Yeah, and then went to secondary school, and like I just kept progressing up the ranks. And I was like, I want to go to America. And one of my teachers, Mr. Amos, he was within the Birmingham Bullets. Like, he was a big vet in the game, knew loads of information. And he helped me like with just my aspirations and just keeping my head on track with class and stuff. And then, yeah, ended up, I tried to make the West Midlands team. Didn't make the West Midlands team. I was like, what? I was like, how am I supposed to make it to America? If I can't make the West Midlands team, I was like,
Was that because there was just such
I don't-
talent fighting for positions
Yeah.
there, or yeah?
I wasn't big, and like I was just talented. I didn't know how to play basketball.
So this was pre-growth spurt.
Kind of. I had the skill, but basketball is like timing and a team game. I was just, because I played by myself all the time, I used to just play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't make that team. And then I had a teacher say to me, I can't remember his name. He was like, I had England trials actually. I had England trials, got cut from the England team, screwing. I had a teacher say to me, because I was really excited about it and I thought I was going to get it. And he was like, if you can't make the England trials, what makes you think you can go to America?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? I didn't really fathom it, but he said this in front of the whole class now. Because I'm the only person that plays ball at school. Everyone's looking at me like, Kofi's good, so he must be the best player.
Well, so why did he say that to you? Because it's not a great morale boost coming from a teacher. Was it like almost like a jibe? Because like you said, you'd been a one-man show. Do you think he'd been thinking you should have been more of a team player with them? Or do you think he was saying it in part to drive you more?
No, I was just a knob at school. I was just
So
cheeky.
he was out to get you.
Yeah, I was just cheeky. Like, he couldn't wait to throw his 2 pence in.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm actually quite glad that he did, because in my brain, I was like, raw, all right, cool. I'm quite a defiant character anyway, so I'm like, all right.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just make the team next year. Didn't. I made the team next year. Didn't. First time I got my first England jersey, I was like 26 at the Commonwealth Games. But I'd been trying to make it every single year.
Yeah.
And
Well, you never gave up.
nah, I didn't. And that's what I say to kids all the time, like, you only fail if you give up. I thought it was going to take me a year. It took me like 11. So like, what can you say to me about, the process is too long? Well, it isn't, because I kept going and I got what I wanted.
Did you never think about giving up?
Oh, plenty of times.
Yeah.
Plenty of times I've been on a basketball court, just me. Tears in my eyes, like, this is a waste of time. I feel like that's my safe place to just go play basketball, shoot, music on, no one around. I used to shoot like 2,000 shots a night till my shoulders locked up. I used to just be in there. In the like 2-3 hours, I'd go between let's get better to this is a waste of time to why are you doing this to you've been doing this for like 10 years, this is a waste of time, to I just keep going, you're going to make it, to no thoughts whatsoever, just emotionally exhausted, and then go sleep, and then the next day is a new day.
Well, so I think we've skipped a little because there was the opportunity when you went through to America as well, which was another great opportunity. You'd earned it by the time you got there.
Yeah.
And it was nothing to do with your skill or the sport, why that journey didn't continue, was it?
Nah, I kind of hated it, to be honest, because when I first, like, when you've got a dream, and not when you're young, just for people in general, when you got a dream, your brain doesn't factor in any potential negatives because it's just a dream, and it's pure positives. There's no realism in it. Really, it's gonna go how you want it to go. So then when your dream is in reality and there's like other factors, how far does that knock you off? For me, it like knocked me because for one, I went from one of the best players in the country, a small pond, to now I'm on like one of the top high school teams in America. Just the coaching, I'm in a new country by myself, and it was nuts as well actually, because when I was getting my visa to go to America, bear in mind in this time it's probably been like it's like 7 years now. Ain't really been cool with my dad like that. Hear from him every here and then.
I never asked, sorry, where's he based?
He was based, I don't even know, between Jamaica and London.
Right, okay.
This is the nuts part, which kind of like threw me in a spanner when I got to America. So I went to the embassy with my mom. She was like, your dad's coming to see you. I'm like, for what? Because obviously I'm like 16 now, 17. I'm not 7. I think I'm grown. It's just been me and my mum. I'm the man of the house. If I hear any noises, I'm the first one flying to it. Like, I'm grown. You can't talk to me on no father-son thing, really,
Yeah.
unless you're coming on the most humble tip ever, which as a grown man, he's not going to. Anyway, saw him, and I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to give him a little bit of a chance now. Just get a little bit of a chance. And he was building a house in Jamaica for like me and all my other like siblings and stuff. And he was like, I know you're going to America. I'd love to come see you play. You should come to Jamaica. We could like start building a relationship. And that was for the first time, yeah, that he actually was like, let's start a relationship. It weren't, I'm telling you off, or you need to do this, you need to do that. 'Cause I weren't having it. Now he was like, let's try and get to know each other. I'm like, all right, cool. Still kind of like, don't know, but cool.
Sure.
I'm at my house. The taxi. Remember, first time I'm leaving home now. I'm sitting upstairs in my bedroom. I'm looking around. I've got butterflies because I'm leaving home for the first time, and I'm sitting on my cases. The taxi's coming. The taxi's coming to get us, to take us to Heathrow at like 2 a.m. I hear my mum get a phone call or whatever. She comes upstairs. I'm like, what's up? Bear in mind, I want to make sure she's good because I'm her only child. I'm leaving her. Do you know what I mean? Bear in mind, my brain doesn't even know what I'm about to go into when I get to America. All I watch is like One Tree Hill and like basketball American shows, 90210, stuff like that. I don't really know.
The OC back then.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And that was not what I was going to. I was going to the hood in America, but whatever. She comes and she's like, hey, I just wanna talk to you real quick. I'm like, what? I'm thinking, oh, has my scholarship been taken? She's like, nah. So she didn't do it as like brazy as this, but she was like, so yeah, your dad's been murdered. What? Bear in mind, 2 weeks ago, I took a picture with him, and he tried to give me his chain, and I was like, nah, I don't wear chains. Ironically, that's all I wear now is chains. He tried to give me one of these actually, and I was like, nah. And he took off one of his gold rings and gave it to me, massive. And I was just like, okay. So I used to spin it in my hand, I put it in my pocket. And I took a photo with him, and you can even see in my face where I'm kind of like, I'm not really cool with my man, but yeah. Yeah, my mum's like, yeah, he got murdered in Jamaica. So, like, how do you feel? What do you want to do? What? I'm like, what do you mean? Then I'm like, what do you mean? Then she's like, oh, taxi's coming. Then the taxi's pulled up. We're going I'm there sitting on my suitcases. Dad's been murdered. I'm leaving my whole life that I've only known for a new life. And I'm like, I don't really know what my options are because we're not wealthy where I can be like, nah, I'm not going. Sure. Also, I'm like, if I do stay, now what? Because I don't really have anything other than basketball, really. For like years, this is what you're working up to. So I'm like, do I give up everything? So I went. I don't even know what, like, between being in the house and getting to America, I think I was just zoned out.
I was going to say, I assume that massively threw you into a weird headspace.
Yeah, and then I'm saying bye to my mum for the first time.
Yeah.
Only child, like mama's boy, do you know what I mean? So, like, I knew she was sad. I'm also mad anxious because I don't know what I'm going into. You can't prepare for what you don't know.
Yeah.
you could try your best, but you're still not ready. And then I've also got the back of my head like, your dad's gone. So I'm thinking, I'm grown now. There's a lot of conversations we could have had where you can't try fob me off like a child. Do you know what I mean? I got questions and you're going to give me some answers now. All that gone. Not happening. I was just like, boy, and that's just been there for like the whole basketball.
Were you surprised by how you felt when you found out about your dad? Because obviously, like you said, it's somebody you didn't have a relationship with, but it was still your dad. And he literally just said, I want to start building a relationship. Like, were you surprised about how you felt about it? Or did you kind of push it down and just try and get on with the task ahead, which was building the basketball career in the States?
It was mad because I still didn't like men up until that point. Like like anyone knows, like anti, just pure, just anti.
So at this point, Mr. Thompson was just the one unique
Just the
standout.
one, yeah, and like my uncles, but they didn't really count. They're family in it, but like anyone else, nah. But in basketball, all my coaches were men, so I was beefing with all of them.
Interesting.
But I'm probably the most talented on the team, so like you have to play me. But his behavior is crazy, so no, I'm not playing him. So it was just one of them. But I didn't know how I felt, you know. Like I was zoned out on the plane. I think I just looked out the window. I didn't know if I wanted to cry, be happy, be normal, be cold. I just didn't know. It was just wild. Because the thing with me was kind of like you go back to Reese. If one thing could have been different, if I would have known this was going to happen, would I have been a little bit different last time we spoke? Or did he know how I felt? Or what happened? Because no one really even knows what happened either. Where he is, it's just bare conspiracy stuff.
Do you think it's left you with regrets?
I'd say so, because when I was growing up, I wanted to be a single parent mom because that's all I saw. So I was like, I'm going to be just like my mom. But because I know I'm a boy and I'm going to be grown, but I'm just going to be like my mom, but just a man version. It's going to be me, my kid. I'm going to take care of them, do everything for them. We're going to be good. And then obviously I got older. And then once I was like in America and stuff, my Uncle Patrick, he's married and he's got kids and stuff. And up until then, I'd never been around a nuclear family.
Right.
Everything was just TV, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, my wife and kids. And then I was used to be in it and I didn't know how to act. So I used to just like take a step back and kind of just like, for how outgoing my personality is, I used to just kind of be in the back with his 3 kids and them 2 and just watching because it was just different.
Yeah.
But then like...
Did you feel like an outsider? Or,
yeah. Kind of, because I just didn't know how to be around that many people in one house. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, so who does what? Because in my house, I can do what I want, other than my mum calls the shots. But now I'm a bit older, I can do what I want, really, so can she. Yeah. But like, then it was like a hierarchy. You got Uncle Pat, then you got Auntie Tanya, then you've got his kids. But then they're seeing me as like the older brother because the oldest one's 13 and I'm 18. And then there's 2 twins and they're looking at me and you're an example. I'm like, what? So that was
you said
mad.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You were Will.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I was, yeah. Especially like my personality and my vibe. Yeah, I was Will.
Yeah.
So it was just wild. But like in terms of like regret and stuff, I can't say it's regret because I weren't at the right space in time to have the conversations that needed to be had. Like the conversation I'd had with him now would not have been the conversations I would have had with him at 17. We probably would have ended up scrapping, if anything, which was just unproductive. So I can't say I'm regretful, but it's kind of like just the cards I got dealt with that I kind of have to like just process going forward.
Yeah. So you got to America, you were beefing with all the coaches. How did that journey come to an end?
Broke my hip twice. Yeah,
Playing?
2 hip surgeries, 2 big ones, where I almost ended my career. And then I got told to have a 3rd one. And by the doctor, 3 months before I turned pro, and he said, you probably need a hip replacement, you need a 3rd surgery, you should retire now if you ever want to be able to bend down and play with your kids. She's like, excuse me?
Was it dirty tackles or just an accumulation of like wear and tear?
I went for a dunk and like landed funny, and then my coach made me play on it, even though I shouldn't have. Just the neglect was crazy.
Right.
I knew I shouldn't have been playing on it, and then he said he was going to send me back to England if I didn't play. So I was just making my hip worse, and then like for like probably like 4 or 5 months, just so I could walk, I was taking an ice bath every single night. So I was breaking into the training room. Like I'd go in the day and I'd leave a little rock at the back of the training room where the door is connected to outside. I'd leave that so it wouldn't shut properly, but it'd look closed. And then probably like 11 p.m. at night, I'd go down there, I'd stretch, roll for like an hour, do stem, which is like an electronic thing for your hip. And then I'd do my homework in the ice bath. I'd do all that for like 2.5, 3 hours, and then go sleep. That was just so I could walk the next day, because I knew I was going to have practice and I knew I was going to have to play games. And I still played pretty well, and did what I had to do, because I just tried to remember the bigger picture. But yeah, man, it was tough. And then when it was time to go pro, I've had 2 hip surgeries. Got told I need a 3rd one. Told about hip replacement. I'm getting told to retire. I'm like 24, 25 now.
Yeah.
Remember, I started playing when I was like 10. I'm like, what do you mean retire? Do you know everything I've been through? Like depression, suicidal, anxiety, everything. Madness, and you're telling me to retire now? I'm literally knocking on the door to like what I've been waiting for. And then he was like, it's up to you. I was like, man. And it was like a 10-month, like rehab. And I was just like, I don't know what to do, because in that rehab, I was in the pool at like 6 in the morning. I'm doing like exercises and lifting at like 7, and then straight to class. And then when my teammates are like having practice and stuff, and lunchtime, I'm getting more treatment. I'm not traveling with the team. Like it's just a lonely, miserable time trying to get back. Even in the summers, like I'll stay at school and just work out with like the football team and stuff, trying to get right.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me to retire. I ain't even started. And then I just said I'm just gonna use this hip hop as best I can, and it's actually been doing me pretty well.
How did it all come to a head then? Because you have this injury, you're trying to fight through it, you're trying to power through. The coach is still making you play.
That was the first one.
Where did you see it getting to? Like what you were like, right, I'm injured. Were you like, I'm just going to power through and I'm going to grow and grow? Because they're telling you to retire.
Yeah.
Where were you thinking it was all going to lead, and where did it end up?
So the first time the coach wouldn't let me play. No, wouldn't let me sit. Was going to send me back. I remember getting an MRI. This guy, the coach, wouldn't believe that my hip was broken. Finally managed to get an MRI. When I got an MRI, the nurse is trying to put the dye into my hip socket. So she's got to push the needle through my hip flexors muscles all the way down into the joint. She's got it in there. She's trying to push the dye out. The dye is not coming out. I'm looking at her thinking, is everything okay? She's like got her hand flat on the top of the needle, like forcing the dye, shaking. It's not coming out. I'm like, what? Then she's pulled it out. She's tried it again. It's not coming out. I've had to get another nurse to come, move my leg around whilst one nurse is pushing the dye into my hip. I'm thinking, my hip's actually messed up. I was like, I didn't realize it was this bad. Coach didn't believe me, made me play that same night. Couldn't even walk. I was overdosing on painkillers, everything. I was miserable. And my friends at the time in England, they were just bantering everything as men do. I think everything was a joke.
Yeah,
so I was like, I muted the group chat, archived it. They didn't hear from me for like months. My teammates, they're going through their own versions of hell too. So I was like, man, my girlfriend at the time, she lived in England. It was just mad. My mom, my family, they can't really understand. But then also there's a little hint of, you chose this. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, And that was the first time. The second time, pretty much the same. Second injury. I was on the court and I've done 10 months now. 10 months of like serious work where my mindset shifted. I'm watching motivational videos. I'm in the morning ready to go.
So do you mean now, or you mean...
No, this was like when I broke my hip the second
25.
time. Yeah. And then I did a move and then I felt my whole right leg just go like numb. Couldn't feel my leg. I'm looking at it thinking, I know it's still attached, but I can't feel it. I just called a sub, came off. My coach was like, I was like, yeah, hip gone again. Another 10 months of rehab and everything.
Over in the States though?
Yeah, all this happened in America. So I'm like, It was just insane, man.
Did
But
you get like a community there over time? Like, was the team a bit every man for himself? Did you create a circle of friends and a support network?
yeah,
'Cause
but I
it's like
had
you said, because you kind of, for your reasons, like silenced the
yeah,
English friends. Your girlfriend was over in England. Did you get a support network?
yeah, but I had some. I became really good friends with like my trainers because I spent most of my time with them. Do you know what I mean? They were students. They were trying to help me get right with the head trainers and stuff, and we was just winging it because my case was so serious. They had really had any experience with something like this too, so we was all just in it together. Like 6 in the morning in the pool, my teammates weren't doing that. They were there with me. Do you know what I mean? Leaving there, going to the weight room, all the massages and stuff. They were there. Like even when like I finally got back playing, I used to have to do so much like maintenance work. I just spent hella time with them. And then when I graduated and stuff, like I actually missed them because like they were just so pivotal for me to even the doctor saying to me you might need to retire. I thought it was done for me before that. So the fact that is even a chance for me to think I can still play, that's all them because I didn't have a clue. Do you know what I mean? Same with my uncle for helping me out. And then yeah, I decided to bet on myself and turn pro, and that journey's been wild too. But outside of the 2 hip surgeries and needing a third one, is then when I made the England team and the Great Britain team after that.
So is the hip okay now? How's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah?
I've been hooping.
You didn't go for the surgery for the third.
I decided like I know more about the hip than a lot of like doctors and stuff. Like because I needed to be able to communicate what's actually wrong with me. Not oh it hurts a bit here.
Yeah.
Nah, like scientific terms. Like I need you to know.
Well, you wanted to understand it yourself, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. Because it's something that's going to be with me forever anyway. Do you know what I mean? I need to just come to terms with it. And yeah, like my one aim in my career has just been for people to be like, he's a really good basketball player. Not he's a really good basketball player for having one hip. I don't want people to know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I'm established, so like if you know it or not, it's whatever. But when I was first coming, he's just a really good basketball player.
Yeah, it's almost like you didn't want the pity. It was like, oh, he's good for
Yeah,
that handicap.
yeah, and it's like I've been killing all you suckers anyway, one hip or two. So like, respect my game, respect the time that I put into my craft, respect how hard I work, and even if I play terrible, I don't want no pity of oh yeah, it's because he's got one hip.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, nah. So yeah, it's been such a defining part of me. Sometimes I look at like my scars and stuff, and like I remember I'm so far gone from it now, but I'm like, man, crazy.
Well, I think it's interesting that you put all this pressure on yourself, and basketball was your be all and end all. And I'm guessing that's what led to what you mentioned before: anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. We've covered a lot from everything you went through with your dad, everything in school, just all those experiences kind of accumulated. And you've mentioned what's become your book. Now, I remember seeing your Instagram stories when you started journaling, and I think it's fair to say that's kind of the next phase where you're at now of your journey,
Yeah.
and probably the right time to talk about the great jumper you're wearing. For those who are listening and not watching visually, the jumper says, "Why not I?" which is Kofi's. It's around mental health and self-belief, isn't it? So do you want to talk about how things came to head, why you decided to start reflecting on how you felt about things? Now, I know these things come naturally with age and becoming an adult, but what was your process into it?
Do you remember that teacher that said, "What makes you think you can make it to America if you can't make the England team?"
Yeah.
Like the way he said it wasn't like a rhetorical, like he was actually trying to embarrass me because he was like, he asked me, and like I actually was looking at him like it's a rhetorical question. He was like, "No, I'm asking you, what makes you think you can make the England team? No, what makes you think you can go to America if you can't make the England team?" And everyone's now looking at me like he's asking us, and I was just like why not? Like why not me? And I don't know where that came from, but my brain must have just been telling me, you might not make it, But I used to go to the newsagents every like month or every 2 weeks and pick up the Slam magazine, which used to be next to like Vibe and the Black Hair magazines and blah, blah, blah. And I used to see like young kids just making it and stuff. And I used to just think, that might be nice. That looks cool. That would be nice. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I weren't saying to myself I could make it, but I was kind of like, I don't want to say I can't and then 100% don't have a chance then. Do you know what I mean? I'm down to try and go from there. And then it kind of just went from there. And then everything that I've tried to do, even like the modeling, the amount of people that said to me, I can't do modeling. You can't be a model. What makes you think you can do that? Blah, blah, blah. Just be a basketball player. And I was like, I'm interested in it. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Anything that I've wanted to do, like, why not? And each time I say that and I just kind of go down that rabbit hole, I've been successful. So like, and then the same people that were like, what makes you think you can do that? Now asking me for advice on how I did it. So I'm kind of like, I need to ignore the negatives at first and then enjoy the positive reinforcement that then comes. I just like to do stuff I'm interested in, if I'm honest. Like, I don't actually care about other people. I care about like how things make me feel. If you rate it and respect it, that's your business, cool. If you don't, I actually don't care either, as long as I'm having fun. So I didn't get into modeling to like, for people to be like, oh, he's a model. I got into modeling because I enjoy photography, clothes, the process and everything behind it. I got into basketball because I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed longer than 2 years the craft of trying to be better every day. No matter what you do, it's not going to be the same as yesterday. That pursuit of more, do you know what I mean? That's what I've always enjoyed. So then with the Why Not I, it just keeps me growing, keeps me expanding, and even mentally, like just to grow as a person. Like I just love it. And so many people I meet or have met have either not tried or given up. And they ask me how did you do it? And I'm like, I just kind of stayed in it a lot longer than I thought I was going to when I first started. And now here I am. Do you know what I mean? Same with the England team. I thought it was going to be like a year, 2 years. Took me 11 instead. The time's going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to want it. Do you know what I mean? I can settle with the time passing, trying and not being successful. At least I tried. At least I know. But like, I got to try. And a lot of things that I've done, I've actually been successful in, because in that time I'm growing, I'm learning. I'm 10 toes down. Like, I'm really trying to pursue it. So yeah, I'll just keep going.
Well, so what are you doing with Why Not I?
It's now a community interest company where I'm doing a lot of stuff for like community groups and using grants to like help groups of people that need it, and all in the name of mental health, because mental health is such a taboo and we're here to like destigmatize it. And someone like me being at the forefront of it, a lot of people think I'm cool, a lot of people might think I'm a loser, but I'm a part of the change. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I can help one person's mindset change, that one person might help 5 people. I don't have to help 6 people. I might just need to help change one person's life, and then it will snowball from there. And in my career and just life in general, especially like my community, black community, mental health, massive. Like, I remember when I lived in Henley-on-Thames, where the regatta is.
Okay.
And I used to walk and cars used to drive past, and I'm with my friends who are just all from like middle class, like nice neighborhoods. And they used to look at me like, yo, why are you like staring in that car? Because where I'm from, there's drive-bys that happen, or cars from other sides of town jump out and there's like issues immediately. So I'm looking like, who's that? And my friends were like, are you supposed to know who that is? And I was just like, huh. And then after a while, I took a step back and I was like, these people don't do this.
Yeah.
That's PTSD.
Well, yeah, and you're almost in a perpetual state of fight or flight.
Yeah, but you don't realize it because that now becomes your baseline. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to sleep hearing helicopters and stuff, and I used to think that's normal. Living in Henley-on-Thames, no helicopters, no police cars, no shootings, no cars speeding, nothing. And it was actually too silent for me at first. And like in certain communities, you just don't realize with mental health what's actually going on. So I want to be a part of the change that I would like to see. Do you know what I mean? And start that from there.
And a big part of your journey with that has been your journaling, right? Getting your thoughts down on paper and reflecting on it. Is that something you'd recommend pretty much everyone does?
Yeah, journaling, 100%. Remember, I was gifted and talented for English as well, so I've always loved to write, and I've always been creative. I love movies. Like I go to the cinema by myself a lot more than I go with people.
Oh, no, I've been doing it for years.
Do you know what I
Because
mean?
it's not even a sociable place as well. So.
Nah, it's like my safe place, but every movie you're watching is creative in its own way. Do you know what I mean? It started as a script, started as an idea, and it's just nice to just see different thought patterns. But then when it comes to like journaling, get stuff out your head, because it's like a balloon, like more and more thoughts, more and more, like everything just clogging up your brain. Let the air out a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And I've done some journaling exercises with myself that are extremely uncomfortable, but necessary at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Because if you really care about your growth, then you've it's the hero's journey, man. Like you gotta go through it. Do you know what I mean? Just for you to like come out on the other side. And the fact I'm getting older now too, I'm getting closer and closer to having children. I'm trying to break generational curses. Do you know what I mean? So like, it would 100% be my fault if I passed on the nonsense to my children, because I'm aware as well. If I wasn't aware, then I passed it on, then that's whatever. But the fact that I'm also aware and don't have children, if I pass it on, I'm choosing to.
Yeah.
So sort yourself out, and that starts with getting to know yourself.
So, I mean, Kofi, that would be an absolutely great note to end on, but I'm going to push it a wee bit further with one last question. When you're going and you're speaking to people for Why Not I, and you're trying to break the generational trauma and the generational curses, like you said, you've been around it from a very young age. What is like a problem you notice like shared across the community? Like, obviously not 100% of people, but like, what do you think everyone's facing, and how can they get around it?
I feel like, but like I talk to so many different like people, communities, ages. It's weird when I'm talking to people who are like 50, 60 and ask me for advice. What I would say is a lot of people don't know themselves. It's scary to get to know yourselves, because there's the version of you that you show everyone. And if you fool yourself enough, you can trick yourself into thinking that's you. But deep down, when it's just you at home or wherever, you know there's a little bit more to you, or there might be a whole lot more to you, or you might know you're putting on a show. People don't know themselves because it's comfortable and it's easy knowing the nice parts. What about the horrible, bad parts? The parts that you try to hide? Do you know what I mean? The parts that you do for acceptance, the parts that you're ashamed of, the parts that are in your subconscious of like your trauma and stuff. Like, what about those parts? Most people just like sweep them under the rug and just go on about their day, but then are wondering why certain areas of their life aren't how they would want. It's because the stuff under the rug is there. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's under the rug don't mean it's still not there. But then at some point with our minds, it becomes too much, and sometimes it can just seep into everything, and now you're like all over the place. So I just feel like a lot of us need to get to know ourselves, and you're forever on that journey. The person I was 2 years ago is different to the person I am now. And the reason why I am a different person is because I tried to get to know myself at that point. Remember, you're still on the hamster wheel. You need to be getting to know yourself whilst you're on the hamster wheel, because we're never ever still. We're always forever moving. And I just think that's just super important. Where you go from there down your own personal rabbit hole is between you and the journey that you really want to take. But I say it starts there.
Amazing, Kofi. Thank you. If anybody wants to find you, where should they look? Where should they find Why Not I? Instagram?
On Instagram, you can find me at Dej Kof, DEJKOAF. On Twitter, Keezus, KEEZUS4. And on Instagram, you can find Why Not I at Why Not I MH. So WHYNOTIMH for mental health. So yeah, man, lock in.
Amazing. Thanks again for coming on, Kofi.
Appreciate it, man. Long time.
Long time and worth it.